everyone. I, Dr. Ashutosh Mathur, on behalf of our director, Dr. Adya Sharma, and my colleague, Professor Sonika Rutela, uh, would like to welcome Ms. Reva Rao, who is joining us today to conduct an online international guest lecture at SCMS Pune. Ms. Reva Rao is a banking professional with over 20 years of work experience in companies like Citi, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and is currently the head of home equity marketing at Prosper Marketplace, which is headquartered in California, US. Today, she will be talking about the influence of sales and marketing in product development through some practical cases and examples. She will be sharing her own experiences in the industry with us. Thank you, Ms. Reva, for joining us.
Thank
I would also like to extend my thanks to the IT team for the support in organizing the guest lecture, along with the placement cell. I will now like to invite Ms. Reva Rao to share her valuable experiences with us. Ms. Reva Rao, please come on the floor. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Dr. Mathur. Very, very excited. First of all, can I just say how honored I am for this opportunity? Because not the undergrad school, but I was denied admission for the postgrad. So by definition, you guys are all smarter than me. So I'm excited to present to a group of people who are going to bear the torch of business school, as well as all of your commitment and all of your variety of experiences you will bring. I will start the form of the lecture. I'm not a lecturer or a professor by any means. I'm a practitioner, so I've been a banker. So I'll talk about what I've done through the course of my life. And you guys feel free to ask questions and ask me and perhaps share some of your understanding of the subject. But what I'm going to talk about is really quite simple. It's basic. It's influence of sales and marketing on product development and product development, what that means in the current environment. So, but before I do that, I thought it would be helpful. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. So give me 1 second. Let me share.
Sure.
Yeah. Is that visible to everybody?
Not yet. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's. Yes, it has come.
All right. So I'll start with what I call the Reva's banking journey, which is really just how did I get here? I think everybody asks me that. Most mentorships I do in my current role are folks who have either graduated from college or had a few years under their belt, and they tend to ask you, and it's very simple. How did you get here? So my path was really simple. I went to Queen Mary School in New Delhi. In fact, I went to school with Adya, who is a dear friend of mine and was the brightest star there is to shine in the Delhi school. So I'm just so excited that she's reached where she has, because she was definitely one of the smartest girls in school. After that, I went to St. Stephen's College. I got a bachelor's degree in English literature, primarily because it was one of the degrees I needed to get to my career. So a lot of you wonder, what is it that, am I, this is my career? Is this where I'm going? No, it's probably the first step, and there'll be movements, but as long as you have a path ahead, that's probably where you start. So any start point is good enough, as far as I'm concerned. After that, I went to, as I said, I didn't get into business school in India. I went to business school in Australia, in a place called UTS, University of Technology, Sydney. And they gave me a fellowship, so it was easy to pay for it. So it was actually a very good decision for me. It worked out. I started with a company called National Australia Bank and Citibank. And I'll talk about some of my experiences of things we did at all of these places, but I'll do a rundown of my path. Citibank is where I really got introduced to product management. We did some credit card launches, which not only helped us understand how consumer behavior works, but it also gave us insights, very quick insights into what I would consider a credit card journey. Right after that, we moved, my husband and I, we moved to New York. And 2001, I started my career with JP Morgan in New York. And I guess maybe a few months from then, 9/11 happened. I was one of the people who actually survived 9/11. I was near the buildings and got to, made it out of there pretty safe. But it does leave an impact on you, not just the environment, but the world view of how you look at the world. So part of why I share that is because JP Morgan changed a lot of its practices from there. So what we used to call lending changed on how we viewed lending, how we looked at lending, how lending was. So a lot of laws in the United States came from some of the impacts of 9/11. And I'll talk about that later on as well. From then, I moved to San Francisco. I came to my first career in home equity, which was at Greenpoint Bank. And it was a small local West Coast bank that had headquarters in New York. And they had hunted me and they asked me to become the head of product at Greenpoint and asked me to launch home equity for Greenpoint. I was fairly new at product management, and I'll talk about that in a moment too. And so what that meant as a traditional banker, going into product management and understanding that. And then from there, I went to a very long career at Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo was really just a Midwest bank when I joined them in 2004. They were probably in the top 10, but I wouldn't say they were a big bank. And then 2009 happened. We were hit with the financial crisis, which took out some of the big banks out of the top ranking. And Wells Fargo got into an opportunity to acquire some other organizations and became Wells Fargo again. And obviously has reached a great deal of heights. But if you've read the press lately, and I don't know how much of that has reached India, but Wells Fargo has been fighting a pretty bad image flight for the last 5 years. At that time, while I was still at Wells, and the news hasn't broken about what was going on in the banking, I was re-exploring my career. So as you can see, up till now, I had the opportunity to work in pretty traditional banks. And I could see the tide was moving into digital. And I had pretty much, at that point, 15, 16 years, a solid time frame in banking. And it was important to me to diversify. And I think many of you do that or will do that in the course of your careers, which is, where am I? Realign myself into what is it that I want to do, and look at what your paths were. And I had decided at that point in my career that I wanted to, and it gave me a little bit of freedom to be allowed, and obviously that's important. You have to have the freedom to be able to do it. But it gave me a freedom to pick and choose where I wanted to go next. And so one of the things that I'd had great retail experience. I had product management experience. I'd had sales experience. What I did not have at all on my resume was digital experience. And some of what I'll talk about today is that, because I think the banking trajectory is definitely evolving to where we're going to be seeing a lot more of digital banking. And post-COVID, I don't even think that's a discussion anymore. Most people would say to you, this is not a, will it happen, but it's a, how are you going to make it happen in a quick and effortless time? And so I'm glad I did that, because I got an opportunity to be the head of product of a company called Terrafina. That is a startup, was started by one of the heads of Wells Fargo, who asked me to join his really small startup. And they gave me a ton of experience into digital banking. because they were a platform and their product was a platform. And so what we did was we sold that platform to many people. The last part of it is where I am right now, Prosper. Prosper is, for those of you who are new to the digital marketplace, Prosper was one of its kind. It was the first that allowed us to be really just banking free. And they are the entire process is done seamlessly digitally. And what that means is the customer walks into a prosper.com page, applies, and then ends his journey with an acceptance or a decline online. So there is really no communication with a real person, even though there's all of the background work that's done by humans, but it's really just AI and a digitally managed marketplace. What's interesting or unique about Prosper is it's a marketplace. And I'll just take a moment. While traditional banks use consumers and the funding is treasury based, Prosper's entire population, if you think about their funders, are people like you and me. So Reva could go to Prosper and say, I'm willing to lend somebody $15,000 and I will pay, and Prosper would say, oh yeah, I found a person who is willing to be that person. And I'm willing to pay, 6 or 8%, and that's a combination of FICO and what their credit attributes are, and that's how that process works. So it's really just people coming to a marketplace and getting people to apply for loans. What does Prosper get? We get what we call the fee in between. So there is like a middleman fee that Prosper makes through the process. So very simple, but it's also revolutionary because really nobody had done that until Prosper came up with the idea. Now, of course, there's lots of copycats and a lot of folks making that cut. So I will, with that, hopefully that was clear. And if folks have questions, please feel free to ask me after the lecture. But I'm going to go to the next part. Ashutosh, everything is still going okay? Everyone?
Yeah, all fine. Yeah, it's going very smoothly. We can hear you very well. Thank you.
Okay, awesome, great, thank you. So what is a fintech product manager? And it's important for me to talk about this because you'll find yourselves in all of these roles. And I honestly, till I got to fintech, did not understand what fintech was, did not understand what product management was in the truest sense, because those names are considered differently in banking. And so I thought I'll spend most of this talking about fintech product management, but because there's a fin and there's tech, I'll be able to talk about the stuff we did at Citibank and Wells, along with the stuff we're doing at Prosper. So the first I would say, which is I think an important part, is become a business-oriented product manager. What does that mean? And I think a lot of folks understand that pretty easily, but you need to understand and help drive decisions. So, and I say that because all the decisions that will impact your product creation will actually eventually end up on some kind of ROI sheet. So if you, at Prosper, for instance, we tend to ask the question, how is this enhancement, and we're off our MVP, how is this enhancement going to impact the product itself? And when you ask that question, somebody has to say, when this enhancement goes into effect, we are expecting to see a 12% increase in applications. Or with this enhancement in our funnel pull-through, we're going to see an enhancement in how many approved loans we're going to see. And so it really is important that when you're a product manager, you kind of tie in what the impact of your product creation is to what the end goal is. The other thing that you need to do is, why are we doing this? Will I get more? Will I tend to be bringing more business in with this? I'll give you an example. I found out when I joined at Prosper, a lot of the work that is done by developers is really just to make sure that every one of those developments, they look fancy and they look fun and they're very nice because the UX designer created something. And then when we look at it and you're like, well, doesn't it serve the same purpose as what we already had? And what does it mean that we need to take the network down? We need to change everybody's screen settings. All of those things are a cost to us. So when you come in with great ideas, which are obviously fantastic, bear in mind there is a overall cost to upgrades, putting people on, having to work through the night to implement. And if there's errors, somebody has to be on call. So things like that, things that we just assume product managers are like in the business of creating beautiful products, tend to forget. So it's important for you to know what's my complete end-to-end impact of what I'm going to do to this product. The second bit, which in banking would have been my manager, his manager, maybe the CEO, and maybe a few other partners who are part of the equation. In fintech, now that changes dramatically. You probably have portfolio managers, you have capital markets. At Prosper, we have a board of directors. So these people have invested in the money into the product and are expecting to see some kind of return from it. So you need to learn to deal with these folks because their questions will orient you to what they're expecting. So if you say as a product manager or as a marketing manager, as the case may be, these are the following changes that I intend to put in, but this is what the end result will look like. They may ask you, well, when do you break even on this product? We just invested, 15, 20 million into your product. And if you tell me it's going up 10%, you did 10 loans yesterday. 10% is not going to cut it. I'm not going to make my money. So you need to be very clear how the overall product process maps into this holistic view from the stakeholders' point of view. And that could be different for different people. So different industries, this is very unique to financial services, but this is where you might have a difference in opinion. The other piece of it is building trust with your customer. I noticed I came from Wells Fargo, which obviously had an $80 billion portfolio in home equity. For those of you who don't know home equity is a subsidiary of a mortgage. So you take a mortgage, you pay it down, and as you build equity in the United States, and I apologize, Ashutosh, I'm not very familiar with Indian financial systems, but in the United States, as you build equity in your home, you can actually borrow against it again for home improvement projects, things to do around the house. So you actually get what we call a home equity, which is a second mortgage on your primary home. We used to also do secondary homes and third homes and vacation homes. Since the 2009 crisis, a lot of organizations actually shy away from giving loans on those. So one of the things that I noticed was, Wells has an $80 billion portfolio, but it also has a myriad of customers that it calls its own. They have their checking, they have their deposits, they have their student loans, they have their car loans, they have a relationship with Wells Fargo. Come to Prosper, there isn't that kind of stickiness. Prosper is selling loans and Prosper is asking customers to apply digitally, but I am a little wary about who they are. So that kind of connection, the trust that you have with your banker, because anything goes wrong with my account, I can pick up the phone and say to my banker and say, hey, Ryan, I'd like you to look at my account. There seems something wrong. Somebody, got into the account, or I'm missing $300 or something, which is not available to most traditional Prospers of the world. You don't have that kind of relationship. So it's very important that you kind of let them know that even though you are, this is a one-off relationship that you're building, it's going to be the best you got. So we have, and I'm not being facetious because it is changing. Most younger generation folks are digitally savvy. In fact, if you talk to my daughter, who's 20 years old, she would rather do all banking without ever talking to a banker. So for her, this is the only path she's going to take. But a lot of other folks may not have that luxury and would like to be walked through the process. And so you need to know how to communicate. So that for the customer who's digitally savvy, provide a product that's slick, quick, easy. But for a customer who actually needs to be walked through the process, be very thoughtful, very slow, and let them understand so that they can do it at their pace. And which means you may have prompts that tells them that come up as you're talking them through the process, or you may have a chat box. So all of those ways are actually just to allow your customer to not be able to feel lost or lonely while they're navigating your product. And this is the part that I definitely want to talk a little bit more about. A lot of people get excited about product management, but it's also very critical to understand what the impact or the cost of an error is. That's thousands of dollars. We use, many of us, most product life cycles now use Agile and their sprints. So every 2 weeks, you have a piece of the product release so that, and part of the reason was there were companies that would go through their entire life cycle and have absolutely no insight. And when you came up with the end product, it was nothing like what you imagined. And so it's very important to know every 2 weeks what the development is, what product is being produced. And we do sprints. And so every 2 weeks, we go through what a sprint review is, and the engineers and the designers, we all get together and we examine what's going to be done. So it's very important because each mistake will cost you, extra thousands of millions of dollars, which is just unaffordable. The other piece is precise documentation. So early product vision with roadmap and details can solve for any legal questions and analyses. And I say that because a lot of times the fintech products have a lot of legal loopholes. For instance, Prosper can pull credit, a soft credit. So again, I apologize if this is not translatable in India, but we are able to do what banks can't do, which is we can soft pull your credit. And I can say if Reva Rao has good credit and what kind of FICO she has. And I can do that all through the process without actually pulling her credit. And we call that a soft pull. What that does, it gives me an early read on what Reva Rao's character is from a credit perspective. So I know she's been paying her bills on time. She actually has enough income to pay because she's been paying all her debt on time. And I kind of know how long she's had her credit. So is she a brand new student who's entering the loan business? In which case I will make sure I'll be very thoughtful of how much my loan product should be. Or if she's a seasoned individual that she comes in and she's constantly taking credit for small projects and she's able to pay them off at her own pace, but based on my requirements, I may give her a bigger loan amount. So those decisions kind of drive all of our behavior, which is all embedded in this credit documentation. Now, that sounds simple, right? But there's a lot of laws to what you can see, what you can see, what you can say, what you cannot say. So in other words, if I've done a soft credit, I cannot decline this customer based on what I saw on him on a soft pull without providing documentation to the credit bureau saying, I pulled Reva Rao's credit. I think that she's been late too many times. And so therefore I'm going to decline her. But I'm following the laws of the land. And so in the United States, we have what we call RESPA or UDAP laws that allow us to make sure we're just not marketing to people and then declining them. So there's a lot. And so as you go through building your product, it's important to know what the legal requirements are, and you have documentation that you check off with our legal team. So part of our sprint reviews, we actually invite our legal teams to be a part of them so that they're with us every step of the way. And so there is no surprises. We run them, any changes are run by them, and we get them in on the development earlier enough in the cycle. So then I thought I would spend a few minutes on the 5 stages of the product life cycle. Obviously, this is the exciting part, which is ideating. And the reason I wanted to show the slide was marketing, sales, and product engineering, finance, and product analytics. I think they're the core team of any product life cycle. And while you're ideating, everybody has just the most amazing thoughts and what we could do. And I'll use an example of the HELOC product. So Prosper has been in the personal loan business for, I think, over 13 years, and they'd been flourishing. However, the CEO, David Kimball, during my interview, I asked him, I said, what made you choose HELOC? And he said, we had a lot of sessions with my team on what would be the next new product. And while, obviously we're a personal loan company, so credit cards seems like a natural growth opportunity, because you have a personal loan, you can get a credit card. Both of those are unsecured debt. And then I come from a bank, and I noticed one of the most high selling products in a bank was a HELOC. And the reason we debated and we questioned and we thought about what product we should use is the HELOC, for a very important reason, was because while the personal loan is on an unsecured product, a HELOC is a secured product. By secured and unsecured, I mean, if you walk away from a loan, which is a personal loan, as a bank or as a financial institution, I have no means to come after you. I can say to you, Reva Rao walked away from a $20,000 loan. But because I charge you 9% interest on that $20,000 loan or a personal loan, I can really, my risk is built into that rate. I'm assuming at 9%, if Reva does walk away, I have collected enough in interest from her that can keep me whole, even though she's walked away. On the home equity side, because it's secured by a home, rates run as low as 3%. So the idea being, again, Reva Rao, I'm still giving her a $20,000 loan, but now she's getting a 3 or 4% interest because I have the collateral. So I can go after her and I can recover my losses by using her home. In fact, going to get her home as a collateral. Obviously, a lot of legal issues from how you do that. Most people in 2009 had a hard time getting recovery of their homes. So I won't go into why both of those options are hard, but I would say that's why you pick one versus the other. The second thing is, as a homeowner, you tend to have had stable income. So as opposed to unsecured debt, most people are buying homes have had, at least a tenure of 8 to 10 years, have worked in the industry, has stable income, are married. I'm generalizing, but that's typically the kind of format for lending to folks who are buying in America. And so his idea was that if I create a product that allows people to have secured and unsecured, then I could basically hedge my bets in a downturn, which we're in right now. So if you think about from a product lifecycle perspective, our idea to launch could not have been at a better time. So we came up, that's how the HELOC team put together the ideas. Now, let's not forget, it's important. As I alluded to before, marketing and sales have to work hand in hand. So one of the things that was important to understand was, well, so we come up with the product. Who's going to sell it? Who's going to be buying it? It's a much more complex product. It's much more difficult. And I will admit, Prosper did not do a great job of this. They did not do a great job of understanding who the customer was. Product development did an excellent job of creating a product, which is absolutely beautiful. But when I was hired last year, the one thing they realized was they lost on knowing the customer. So one of the first things we did was look at what was the development cycle like, where we were at, and what are the things we need to learn. And I'll talk about that. So from ideation, you go to development, which I'm sure everybody knows. Product engineering, UX, big part of that development cycle. Making sure you do testing, test. I think I cannot stress on this enough. Before launching a product, there's just an incredible amount of testing that's done. And obviously, as the sprint cycles finish, you have testing. But even while you're in development, a lot of testing happens. And then the MVP. Like I said, a lot of the stakeholders are waiting for this moment. They're waiting to see the first design, first product that's going to come out of the product lifecycle. But is that the best use of the product? Probably not. It's what most startups do to just get the product off the door, to basically make sure the stakeholders are willing to come back in and put additional dollars. So as soon as an MVP launches, the CEO and a few executive leadership will present to the board, and they, product and engineering and marketing, everybody's included. And really, the point of that the exercise is to make sure everybody has an idea of where you're going with the product and what the path is. And that's what I talk about the playbook. You have to know where the path is and where you've drawn the line. And product and engineering, while they do an excellent job of managing the agile and the sprint cycles, are usually myopic when it comes to what that means from a marketing and sales perspective. That great feature you wanted to add in the beginning, if that confuses the customer and he doesn't know how to enter your website, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how cool that feature was if you lost the customer on cycle number one. So a lot of times, marketing has to come in, and sales and marketing then work together to make sure that each step is actually customer friendly. And then, of course, the product launch and the analytics team. I have to say, that's another piece that I find we have a lot of partners. In fact, a few of the companies we use help us with the analytics. Again, a skill set that's not available extensively in Prosper. We've actually outsourced a lot of that to external companies to help us analyze some of our data, give us information on what we're good at, what we're not good at, what we should spend our marketing dollars on now that the product is up and running. So this is, I think, where I would talk about why this becomes a big part. Why don't we see product? I mean, as you saw the life cycle, why don't they work together? Seems pretty simple. But the truth is they don't. And it's oftentimes, and I've been on both sides. I've been a product manager as well as been a marketing manager. And I see a lot of the reasons and I'll use an example at Prosper. When I first came in, it was a pretty simple idea. A customer walks in to Prosper for a personal loan. We do a soft pull and the customer says, well, I'm ready to get a personal loan. And Prosper put its hands up and said, we noticed that you own a home. Would you consider getting a home equity? Now let's stop and think about that for a moment. If I, as a consumer, decided to get a loan today, I probably had a need. And I said, I'd like to buy a car, or I'd like to pay for my daughter's college loan, or I'd like to, I need to remodel my kitchen, which is about $20,000. You did not say, well, I'm going to get a personal loan today, or I'm going to get a home equity loan today. You really just need $20,000. So what that did was we had customers come in, but the process, the question was being asked well after the customer said, yep, I'll take your loan. And we were in the path, and we had kind of forgotten why we're doing what we were doing. So fast forward to when I came on board, the first thing I did was I said, we need to restart the process of development, but we now need to reassess what these customers are coming in for. So how do you do that? We start talking to them. We created roundtables, we had surveys, we had question and A's. So I equipped myself with a ton of information about what the customer wants to see. And we reworked, we call them the cross-sell funnel and a direct funnel. So we use the same customer base. We have the same customer base as personal loan, but we market to them differently. Only because now we know which of these customers own a home. If you're not a homeowner, you don't even qualify for a home equity. So we immediately moved them off the funnel, and we gave them first dibs on a HELOC. So, but why didn't product do that? Product had a very important job. They had to actually build this entire product funnel. So I can see why they were laser focused on working on getting the product off the ground. So that's what I mean by industry and peer review is a big part of what product management does. For them, it's people will gauge them on how this product works, how slick the product is, how easy the product is. And for us to just say, yeah, it's not as easy to use, probably not a good idea. Sales and marketing, on the other hand, when the product comes to you, the CEO said to me, my target is 2 billion. When do you think you could make it happen? So trying to come up with sales goals and sales ideas, that is given to marketing and sales. And so for us, we have a different set of dynamics to work with. We don't need to worry about how the product is viewed from an industry funnel perspective. For us, our goals and lead generation and awareness is a completely different. So you can see why they have different goals, and so the decisions that they make are different. Often supervisors decide on what you're going to be working on. So sprint to sprint, it costs us about $100,000 on each sprint review. So think about that, $100,000. If I was a product manager, I would be focusing on a lot of things that I think are valuable to the ROI. But a marketing person, I'm not that concerned about that, the 100,000. That seems to be an engineering manager's problem. For me, I'd like you to be building this new slick way I'm going to get these customers in. So that, I think, is a big reason why there's a conflict between the short-term and the long-term objectives. Roles and responsibilities are often different. So reporting structure is different. So product managers don't actually work very closely early in the product management lifecycle. So product basically says, I got this. I know what I need to build. I got this. But a lot of times that's not the best way to go about it. We have instituted quarterly reviews. So every quarter, as a team, the head of product and I get together with our teams and we discuss what the product management has on their product roadmap. And then we come back with say, yeah, that particular piece of we're not going to be part of it. It's post-production, but this piece, we're going to help you with this. And this is how we see it. So there's a lot of collaboration. And I have to say the product and marketing team at Prosper works beautifully. And I'm so proud of the entire team on that. Needless to say, why is this important? And what do you need to do to bridge the gap? It's critical to product success. It's critical to product development. And most importantly, it's critical for the stakeholders. A lot of our time is spent, I'll come back from board meetings and our board directors will say, well, could you just not put the HELOC on Pinterest? because Pinterest is where most of the people are putting their, home ideas. Yeah, I could, but that's not where I choose to do it. And here's why. Because building a API to Pinterest will cost me, hundreds and thousands of dollars. And the break even on that would be so high. So I need to work with my product team to make sure I can answer that question, because obviously it's a board director, so it can't be answered lightly. So you have to make time to make sure you orient them to how you came up with the decision. The answer is still a no, and yes, maybe later, but it's not the way, it's not a simple no, because I don't want to do that, but it's here's why I don't want to do that, and you need your product managers to help you with that. A lot of times I also find product managers and engineers, particularly engineers, don't understand the why. When I started at Prosper, a lot of the engineers had come from all the other sexy companies. They had come from Airbnb, they had come from Uber, they had come from Starbucks, they had come from Google. And their question to me was, this is so boring. Why are you making us build this product? And so part of my job was marketing sales, was to educate the inside team to why this is important. This allows a homeowner to actually fulfill their dreams in a very low cost way. To me, having come from home equity, personal loans at 10% is egregiously high if you can do the same job at 3% and pay off your loan faster. So just to me, the way the product works, I think it's a safe investment, provided you pay your bills on time. A personal loan, not so much. But I think part of it is making everyone understand. So your job in product management or in marketing will be to understand what the big picture is. And I think I would urge every one of you to spend time doing that. Tell a story on why it's important, why the product is important, why their job is important, and how you're going to partner with them to sell this to the end goal customer or the stakeholder. The marketing also, the other piece of the marketing puzzle is marketers tend to just want a quick sale. Product management has spent months building this process. I'll give you an example. I had, when we were at Wells Fargo in 2009, in the home equity life cycle, we had a product called the interest-only fixed-rate advance. By that I mean, you could take a 100,000 line and fix a part of it for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. And I went to the product team and I said, so actually I need a promo rate. 2009, the crisis has been terrible. The CEO had said to me, I'd like you to regurgitate, revitalize home equity. I'd like you to come up with a promotion, give them a rate offer, give a discount, come up with something that allows home equity to be exciting again. But it was 2009. We had 40% of our bankers at Wells had left. They had been laid off. They had left on their own. Basically, we stopped selling. So we had a brand new crop of people. So trying to get them to sell without having any promotion would be foolish, except HELOC had we did not have the capability of a promo rate. So I went to a product team and I said, hey guys, so I know you don't have a promo rate. How long will it take to build? At Wells, product lifecycle, 18 to 24 months. I'm in 2009. I don't have time till 2011 for a product. We need to get sales today. And so a product manager said to me, I know we don't have a promo, but we have this thing called interest-only FRA, which is a 1 year. So it's not a promo, but why don't you sell that? And that's it. Once I understood that the feature could mimic that of a promotion, I took that, I packaged that to our CFO, and I said, and I needed an exciting rate. So I said, Prime was at a very low, I can't remember, but it was a pretty low rate at that time. And so I came up with this idea of using the fixed rate advance with a very exciting $199 fixed rate advance offer. And I packaged it, and we went out with our marketing team and we created a promo. That one single promotion led to a $1 billion growth in our home equity. And I fortunately for me, that was recognized by the Wells leadership. So that's what I said. It's important for product to work with marketing, but it's just as important for marketing to work with product, to understand all the features and the nuances, to be able to present to the customers what the product can say. And now, not only did, once Wells came out with the product, BFA came out with the product, every other mid-range bank, Citibank, literally every bank within 1 to 2 years of the product going live, they created their version of that product. And now almost every organization has it. But because we were the first people to launch it, we had the we had the first person in the market advantage on that product. Communicate. I would say, why is this important? Maintain transparency, communicate, have weekly meetings, discuss what's working, what's not working. We do on a monthly basis, we kind of do a roundtable with all of the leadership, and we discuss what success is, what's not working, and we discuss what we could do better. And obviously there's a lot of opportunities, so people can bring a lot to the table. So where are we going next? I would say banking in COVID is going to be vastly different than we see it. And in fact, thanks to COVID, a lot of bankers are recognizing what they always knew. They can't do banking in the traditional way. So digital banking is probably the only way you're going to go. But how do you keep it personal? How do you keep it relevant? And how do you keep the customer on the hook? I found this link of a video. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that which is proprietary to the organizations I've worked with. So I could not show you a lot of the stuff that's proprietary. But I would say, for all of you who have a moment in time, please go to prosper.com/HELOC, and you will see a lot of the stuff we've created, which is content-based, website-based, and there's a video that I think just launched last week, which allows you to know what a HELOC is like. And I'm excited for all of your future and careers. So I'm going to just leave you with this video, which hopefully will play. Is the volume working?
Yeah, it's working well.
Hello, bank manager.
Hi, Maria. What can I do for you?
Summary of accounts, please. Festival savings. Transfer £200 from festival savings to current account. Reference ticket purchase.
Hey, Maria. We have a partnership with X Tickets. What tickets do you want to purchase?
2 tickets for Berlin Festival.
Sure. These tickets come on sale in a few seconds. Do you want us to purchase them automatically as soon as they're available?
Yes.
Congratulations. Please authenticate on your purchase. We can provide help and advice for your upcoming trip. Would you like to know more?
What can you offer?
We recommend upgrading to a multi-currency account to save on fees and booking a flight soon, as availability is rapidly reducing since festival tickets went on sale.
Let's do it. So, we are going to Berlin.
And that's it, you folks. Thank you so much for your time. And I can't wait to hear from you guys. Back to you, Arthur.
Thank you, Reva. It's a phenomenon, your guest lecture, and the best part is the video, which I think we have liked it. In fact, I'm sure our students would have definitely loved it. Your discussion, which currently we are all are teaching them with sales and marketing. Me and my colleagues, including Adya ma'am, everyone. And I think the way you have told them, I mean, your practical knowledge, the insights, I think this will definitely, work for the students, because studying in this four wall and then knowing about what's going on in the corporate world, it's very important for them to understand. Thank you very much. I would like to invite Ojas Joshi, one of my placement cell members, student. He would like to convey the vote of thanks from on behalf of the college, on behalf of the entire team, basically. May I request Ojas to be there on the platform?
Oh, yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are very much audible. Yeah.
All right, sir. On behalf of our director, Dr. Adya Sharma, our beloved faculty, staff, and our dear students, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Reva Rao for this wonderful session. We thank you, ma'am, for taking time out from your busy schedule and giving us so many valuable and practical insights. You definitely are a role model to the students present here today. I would like to also extend my gratitude to all those who helped facilitate this session, especially Ashutosh sir and Deepa ma'am for their constant guidance, and the IT department for providing us with this platform to connect on. Lastly, I would like to thank each and every student for their active participation and for cooperating with us. Thank you and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ojas. Thank you, everyone. Sir. Thank you. Thank you, Reva. I hope we would be in touch, and we'll again have another guest lecture. I think I'll definitely discuss with Adya ma'am that we need to have part 2 guest lecture from you.
That's awesome.
I hope you don't mind, keep on troubling you, in fact. So it was a very lovely session. So sorry to disturb you early in this morning of yours.
No, this was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
We have a very good response. In fact, we are almost touching to 200 students in the night at 9 to 10. It's really, amazing the way. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Reva. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, team. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, students, for contributing over here and taking your time and attending the guest lectures. Thank you, everyone.
And Dr. Mathur, if there are any questions, don't feel free to.
Yeah, this is left out is the questions. Dear students, do you have any questions? Please, you can shoot.
I know there's only 8 minutes left, but yeah, I'm happy to.
It's okay. No, it's okay. I mean, the students are there still. I mean, Shivam Bansal. Yeah, please go ahead, Shivam Bansal. Students, there are any questions? Sandhya, just ask your, your friends, your people, any questions?
No, it's pretty late at night.
Should I type the question or just ask directly?
Yeah, go ahead. No issue, please.
Ma'am, with the current situation of COVID-19, how do you suggest what is the future of jobs and economy in US? And should we aim for international MBA right now, or should we just stick to Indian MBA?
I would say all MBAs are good. There's really no right answer with MBAs. So that is an entirely personal decision. I don't think you need to worry about the quality. I think in the United States, especially, most of the leadership, I would be one of those. A lot of the leadership recognizes schools, and we understand where you guys are coming from. So that's not a problem at all. Now, that comes to the actual job markets. As you know, we've hit our all-time highest ever. 33% of Americans are unemployed right now. So it's not a question of recovery. I absolutely think we will recover. It's just going to, the question is, it's an L-shaped curve, or is it going to be a hockey stick, or how is this recovery going to be? The good news is, this is also an election year. So our government has decided to pump in a lot of money. So everybody's getting a lot of benefits for staying in process. So whether it's financial institutions, whether it's folks, small businesses, everybody's getting a lot of money to survive. And so I actually think we will come out of this, and that's probably reflective of folks who are following the stock market would recognize we're definitely recovering. The stock market hasn't even recognized that there was a virus. Most people recognize people are working from home really well. The only piece that is hurting, I think, is internships. Only because leadership is not in person in the office. So it's hard to train an intern when you're not in the office yourself. So I think that's the only part I would say that's a little hard right now. But hang in there. I think the jobs will come back. I don't think we're going to see a very slow recovery. This is going to rebound pretty quickly. That's my hypothesis. But it's just a question of how long. So 2021, 2022 is, I think, what's aimed to be. It's going to be a year to 2 years before we recover.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, Ananya Tandon, could you please throw your question, please?
So she says, cyber fraud surges as COVID-19 changes banking. What steps would you recommend to banks to avoid this problem during COVID-19? Well, we're in it right now. Cyber fraud is actually not this has not changed cyber fraud at all. So we haven't seen a difference in the quality of fraud. What we're preparing ourselves is the quality of losses. So I would just, Ananya, for me, it would just turn the other way. The question is, of the people who we give the loan to who look absolutely fabulous right now, but they may have applied for some kind of what we call payment protection, which is basically 90 days or 180 days. Banks have chosen different forms and said, we will forgive you for your loan for the next 90 days. Those are the customers we're afraid of because we've given them 90 days. What happens after 90 days? Will they pay back or we write off the loan? COVID-19 has proven to be a big hindrance to all kinds of businesses in a sector like banking, a largely person relationship sector. How much and how do you think you can automation or AI help? Yeah, no, that is in fact, folks, Rajwal, that is exactly where our biggest drive is. Banks like Prosper, I would say, were waiting for COVID because we were ready for COVID. I saw my production increase 3x in the last 3 months. So we've actually tripled our volume over the 3 months. Banks that did not have any kind of digital viewing are reaching out to Prospers and saying, hey, how can we get to become like you? So you hit the nail on its head. COVID-19 has proven to be the game changer when it comes to being digital, which is why I took time to talk to you about Fintech, because I think that's where the jobs will be. Even if it's not today, it's going to be where the jobs will be. Essential skills required to start off in the field of product management. What kind of internship or field should one go for masters in terms of internship? I would say any kind of product or, so Abhiraj, thank you for your question. The most internships in product management or marketing would be where you would go. Obviously you will be working on research. So any kind of, so UX research, any of those areas that help facilitate product management would be the skills, I would say. There's you can't go wrong with any of them. Has about your experience at JP Morgan, as it's challenging as everyone says it is. It's a good question. I guess I don't know any different because I was at JP Morgan and it was great. I know it's supposed to be cutthroat, and I guess every industry is. I love the people I worked with. I did not, actually, I've not had, you have challenging people in every organization. Let me put it this way. It's just up to you how to manage them. So find yourself on an ability to be able to communicate with people. I've had to take countless of people on coffees and teas and have private meetings with them to understand what their questions were. Sometimes it's communication, sometimes it's personal issues. So you just have to work through them. Shithit says, how well versed should you be with financial products to work in marketing in a finance company? I don't think you do. Not to start, not at the initial round. They would just want to know what's your views. So a lot of the interviews will be, how do you think? So just prepare on how do you think. So somebody asks you, why should we hire you, even though you've never worked in financial products? What would you say? So those are the kind of questions I would ask myself. I really don't think there's any job you cannot do, but most employers want to know, how do you think? And I'm sure Dr. Mathur and Adya have equipped you enough to be able to do that. It's 9:30. I do have to jump to another call, Dr. Mathur.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. In fact, yeah, it's, I mean, it's almost time now. So that's all. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Reva. All the best.
Thank you. And I
We'll
appreciate everyone's time. It's pretty late at night. So have a good night, you guys. Stay safe. And thank you for this opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye. Bye, everyone.